So I've arrived back in Canada and I'd like to share one experience I had in Japan. So I arrived in this place called Akoni and I want to do some hiking. And so I'm going along a road and it's quite a narrow road and the shoulder is quite narrow as well. And there's lots of traffic. And so I'm finding various points where I'm finding trails, but the trails all seem to come to a dead end or they don't go anywhere. So eventually I come to this staircase and it goes on for quite a while, up a number of stairs, and then I ended up at this old abandoned shrine. And behind the shrine there's an unmaintained trail, but it's pretty clear there's a trail. So I'm going along this trail and I come to this abandoned train track. And I'm looking around like, where am I going to go back to the road? And so I decide, well, I'll just walk down the train track. So I'm, 150 meters down the train track, and all of a sudden the train comes out of nowhere. And the driver sees me and I'm like, I'm wearing red, I have my yellow jacket with me, I am like obviously on the train track. And so the driver actually gets out of the train and he is shooing me off the track. He's like, we're going back 150 meters to the end of the track. Now I'm pretty sure that about 200 people on the train were not too excited about me, the silly tourist on the train track. But the last thing that the driver said to me is, you'll be okay. And I said, yeah, I'll be okay. I'll just follow my tracks back. And thanks be to God, this driver was not like John the Baptist. John the Baptist, first he's dressed kind of strange and he is eating a diet that's a little out there. He's austere. Also, brood of vipers, I don't think that's going to change too many hearts. So he's really on fire. But also, he's only going to baptize with water. Now, this is a preparation for people to awaken themselves that the Messiah, the Christ, is coming. And the Messiah, the Christ, will usher in the presence of God, will ultimately be the presence of God. And what a gift that is. And it's actually, is that something that we really believe in? Well, when you look at the life of Jesus and you look at how he died, especially, and then through his resurrection, I mean, it's obvious that Jesus the Christ was the Son of God. Because only Jesus the Christ could offer so much care and love and mercy to people, putting him to such a horrific death, and through resurrection show us that love and mercy triumph. And what a gift that is. And so the shift really with Jesus is someone of compassion. Notice he's always reaching out to people who are suffering. God cares for the people who are suffering. But sometimes when you listen to someone who is suffering in some way, we can identify with their suffering. It's like our life and their life kind of comes together. And of course, the situations are not exactly the same. We can't expect that. But there's a connection. But it's really to remind us that we're all part of the body of Christ. And if we draw upon Colossians 3:11, Christ is all and in all. The whole universe is the body of Christ. And so we are to be compassionate with all parts of creation and all of humanity. Whether something happens on the other side of the globe, a natural disaster of some sort, we can feel that pain. And of course, we always want to do something. And sometimes you can be overwhelmed, but we just have to do our small little part to make the world a better place. Now, in the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, we eventually end up with a stump. And that's probably not a good thing. And yet there's new life that's coming out of a stump. I've walked through many forests, especially here on the West Coast, and you have this big tree that's fallen over and there's another tree growing out of it. Now, of course, this tree initially is the tree of King David, or the tree of Jesse. And this tree at one point, when David is in power, and even in the early years of Solomon's power, I mean, the tree is pretty healthy. But eventually it falls over. And it almost has to begin again. And Solomon did really well at the beginning when he prayed for wisdom, but he should have kept praying for wisdom day by day, and how important that is. But that tree, that new life is Jesus the Christ. And day by day we can be renewed in Jesus Christ because we are in constant contact with Jesus Christ, and what a gift that is. And so as we come to the table of the Lord, what a blessing it is that we come to be nourished, we come to be strengthened, so that we can be compassionate with the people in our lives. We can continue to encourage one another, and we can continue to be merciful as God